Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah. I have described to you our Islamic psychology principles model and the Pi-CBT framework, which we are moving downward. And just to recap, that the foundation of Islamic psychology is based on the four principles: understanding the divine creator, understanding the human self, on being the Caliph of Allah, and understanding the holistic human behavior and laws of learning, which then can be used for our tools and techniques and protocol. Alright. From here we develop our Islamic psychology model of how we are influenced by our physical environment, intra and intersocial environment, and inner speech, and how we harness our inner speech to override our deficiencies in the social and physical environment, and how our total past learning history as a human being living both in the physical and the spiritual world affects the nature of our existence and the nature of our psychology, whether positive or negative, or even having situational conditions which we need therapy or treatment. And then from here we develop our Pi-CBT protocol, tools and techniques, research and development. So the whole Islamic psychology principle model and framework from right down, from top right down. And for Pi-CBT we are talking about the model and the CBT framework in terms of protocol, tools, techniques and research and development. So I'm throwing some ideas. We are trying to perfect, for example, the protocol, Pi-CBT protocol. What is this going to be? How is it different, say for example, from CBT protocol? How is it different, for example, from MBCT protocol, DBT protocol, or the many other variation of the various psychological protocol techniques that is being used by modern psychologists. So how are we going to integrate within this framework of positive Islamic cognitive behavior therapy? So I'm just developed an idea, all right, for us to just think about. We may change this at a later stage, but this is the best that I can come up as of now. When we talk about Pi-CBT framework and protocol, we create a triangle. We start with our approach towards the positive Islamic psychology protocol with intention. This is very important in Islam. Everything we must begin with intention. Allah tells us, "Innama amalu binniyat." Whatever that we do, we must do with intention. Alright? So how are we going to create an intention so that this intention is useful for us in terms of our references to our existence, our intention for ourselves in terms of our spiritual, emotional, mental and physical development, our intention insofar as our submission to Allah, our intention to transform ourselves or to change ourselves, our intention to become a good therapist or counselor, and so on. So there are many areas of intention that we will have to discuss, but this is just one idea, because we do not want to take the secular model. The secular model is value-free, but we cannot be value-free. We must be intentional to change ourselves. For example, intentional in the sense that for ourselves and for those who we are giving therapy, the counselor and those whom they counsel, we must bond together with the idea of the intention of being submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the fullness sense, and striving to make ourselves good as His Khalifa of Allah, striving to make ourselves good, both parties, helping others to be good. So for a counselor, helping the patient and making the world good. So that could be a framework of an intention, which inshallah we will find some ideas, and we will then describe this framework of intention. That is very important for Islamic psychology protocol, because we start with intention. Second level is intervention. So there are many interventions that we can use. So we are not moving away from the intervention that is already available by research-based, empirical-based studies. For example, they have the biomedical intervention. This one we need the psychiatrists and the medical doctors to tackle this, because this is beyond counselors and life coaches, because this biomedical intervention, there are many approaches to biomedical intervention in terms of drug therapy, in terms of electroconvulsive therapy, in terms of electromagnetic pulse therapy, and many other therapies that are now being introduced. All right. So that area is a very medical-based intervention in terms of psychological or problems insofar as cognitive or behavioral. So that we leave it to our psychiatrists and our neurologists and our medical doctors. The intervention in terms of cognitive and behavioral, yes, there's a lot. CBT is based on CBT. So CBT. So we use cognitive and behavioral intervention because there's thousands and thousands of research work based on successful intervention using CBT. So we approach CBT intervention, and then we have our intervention that is spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical integration. So this intervention is pertinent and unique to Pi-CBT, Positive Islamic Cognitive Behavior Therapy, because I have spent a lot of time explaining to you the nature of integration. Before that, the nature of coherence, the nature of synergy. We take the highest level of trying to develop the spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical integration. So that would be our basis for intervention. Once we have developed this intervention, we also must develop attitudinal and values transformation and development. This is very important in Islam. So the values of kindness, gentleness, empathy, love, mercy, compassion, and so on. We will then have an attitudinal and value transformational development. So we have our intention, our intervention, because if you are going to change a person, you must then, the intervention must give you this result in terms of the attitudinal values transformation and development. Because if there's no change at this level, then this whole intervention fails. So we must develop the protocol within this idea of attitudinal values and transformation, and the highest level will be self-actualization. Just like Maslow theory of needs, hierarchy of needs, he talked about self-actualization from the perspective of human psychology, which is good. We are not saying it's bad, in terms of fulfilling your mission and vision in life from a secular materialistic worldview. That is okay. But our self-actualization is far beyond Maslow. Our self-actualization is the SEMP integration at the highest level. So once we have developed this attitudinal values transformation, then we must create a situation where the person becomes self-actualized. But that self-actualized, that doesn't mean it's an intellectual self-actualization. There will be different levels of people, but they are all self-actualized. For example, if you have a poor laborer who is illiterate, he or she can be self-actualized. There's no reason why they cannot be self-actualized. Being a laborer, being a fisherman, being the best fisherman, the happiest fisherman on earth, why not? He's self-actualized. Or you are intellectually, you can be the best physicist, and then you're still self-actualized. So don't take this self-actualization to mean this grandiose idea, but it is the idea that we develop our spiritual self, our spiritual realm, our emotional realm, our mental realm, and our physical realm in such a way that is integrated, that we live a good, happy life, a wonderful life, a life of iman, a life of joy, a life of happiness, a life of peace, a life of sharing, a life of caring, a life of wonderful gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us, and in return we give back to the world. So that is self-actualized. So it need not be focused on this idea, or self-actualization must be, you must be a PhD or a graduate or so. No. Each and every one of us, every human being is created as a Caliph of Allah on this earth, and each and every one of them can be self-actualized. This is the idea of self-actualization from Pi-CBT. So don't worry, when we look at this, don't think that this is a theoretical framework, but this is inshallah, a very practical framework where we develop our protocol using the tools, the techniques later on on the other side of this protocol, where once we have this protocol built up, we have the tools and techniques, and inshallah there are many tools that we can integrate using whatever is available in terms of cognitive behavior therapy, in terms of spiritual, emotional, and mental and physical integration, and other techniques which is within the realm of Pi-CBT. So inshallah, if you have this idea, then you can understand our protocol. Our protocol for Pi-CBT. Alright, this is just at the idea stage. We may develop, but we may even adjust and change. But if you have any ideas, you can think about how you are going to develop from the framework of Islamic psychology your own protocol. Because as I say, I'm just giving this idea as I develop this program based on our model. All right? Based on our model. All right? You may have a different model altogether. That's the whole idea of continuous improvement. The Japanese say kaizen. We continuously improve ourselves. So we continue to improve our model, our capability, our techniques, our protocol, so that inshallah we can present to the world the best of the best, which is inshallah with the grace and the mercy and the love and the guidance and the gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can help improve the ummah, make an ummah of peace, ummah of achievement, ummah of success, ummah that live in barakah, in the grace of Allah, and ummah that exercise their fullness, self-actualization as a Caliph of Allah, always striving to make themselves good, helping others to be good, making the world good, inshallah.